Brad Stevens, speech number 5. I have 5 people in my audience. It'll be recorded by the son. Alright, thanks again for coming out and having me do this. I know we've already done this once before. I just realized that I wasn't up to the previous time restraints, and I actually changed my topic to a new topic. This is going to be on basically police violence and how social media and how we're being affected by it. There's a growing resentment in our communities lately. People are starting to really react violently towards law enforcement. Everyone here in my audience that chose has had some interaction with law enforcement at one point or another, except for my son. Better not have any interaction with law enforcement. But what it is lately a lot of people have been being very hostile. Whenever they're getting pulled over, they're talking back, they're videotaping it. Anytime you can pull up YouTube, and anytime you'll be able to see a video of somebody who recorded somebody talking back or fighting back with law enforcement during the time. Basically where this all started with is in the last 2 years, and started with Michael Brown. Michael Brown was killed by Ferguson police officer Darren Wilson back on August 9th, 2014. What had happened was it was put out in the media that a white police officer chased down a young black man and shot him for no reason, and while he was trying to put his hands up in the air. And this is what was corroborated by the witnesses with Michael Brown at the time. It started a movement of unrest throughout the United States. We actually had riots down there in Ferguson. Over 30 people arrested, 12 businesses were looted. One Quick Mart was actually burned to the ground. It didn't even come out until a couple of months later in congressional documents that said Michael Brown actually robbed the place previous to being shot, as well as fighting with a police officer inside his vehicle and trying to take his weapon. And there's actually that's where he actually was originally shot, was inside the vehicle while trying to grab a weapon. After the Michael Brown incident, it kind of started a lot of different movements. One of these is the hands up movement. Basically, what it was a nationalized idea that people were putting their hands up in the air and to signify that they wanted to honor Michael Brown and him being killed. People, this is going so far as the NFL. People in the NFL, Davon Austin and others, would come onto the field holding their hands up. People on the congressional floor, Democrats and senators, are putting their hands up on the congressional floor in honor of the hands up movement. Yeah, this actually started also going into the other movement. Beyonce Knowles, in this year's Super Bowl, Beyonce Knowles came out and did a halftime show. She was dressed up in the attire of the Black Panthers movement, for the Black Lives Matter movement. And not only did she have this attire on, but all of her dancers. And this got to the point where their law enforcement agencies around the country are actually starting to boycott Beyonce and the ideas behind it. What people need to understand is that law enforcement is not an easy job. It's, you know, if you're getting pulled over, if you're getting in a fight or you're doing something, law enforcement arrives. You gotta understand that the reason these guys are coming out and they're taking aggressive action is because it is a difficult job and it's not an easy one to follow. Okay. August 28, 2015, I use this one because this is Officer Paul Carter. Paul Carter is up by Hill Air Force Base. He was a member of the Utah Highway Patrol. I know Paul personally. I'm very good friends with him and his brother, Dan. I worked with Dan for about 5 years as police officer. August 28, 2015, he was just doing a standard traffic stop. And when he went up to the guy's car, the guy just shot him several times. Paul did respond. Paul did not die, but he did respond. He killed the other person as the guy was trying to drive away. And they interviewed his family, the guy that shot his family, and they basically said that he was just a normal person, but he got caught up in all of it in the Ferguson thing, and he was started becoming anti-police and anti-law enforcement, started becoming violent towards them. And he was actually talking to several people that said that if he was ever pulled over, if he ever talked to any kind of law enforcement, he was actually going to respond violently towards them. So it kind of gives you an idea that this person that had no criminal history prior to this event took action upon themselves to respond violently toward law enforcement. Just yesterday, Ashley Guinan, first day on the job, responds to a domestic violent call and is shot along with 2 other officers. Very first day, she's with her FTO, which is what's called a field training officer. The person is training her, and when she walked in the house, they shot her. I'm bringing this up, and because what's happening is that's starting to become not only a very first response, but it's just kind of showing how when law enforcement responds to a scene, law enforcement responds to a call, they're not knowing what to expect. They're going there with this idea that they might have to get their hands on, they might have to get their hands dirty, and they might have to respond with violence. So if the situation doesn't call for it, then don't be violent yourself. Just last night, February 27, 2016, Salt Lake City, police officer shot a young boy, Abdel Mohammed. That happened just right downtown. 30 people arrested, 100 police officers from different agencies responded. This has never happened in Salt Lake. The last time we had any kind of violence was about 10 years when we had the Trolley Square shootings. We don't riot here in Salt Lake, so now it kind of shows that this unrest and animosity towards law enforcement is actually affecting us close here at home now. I pulled out a couple basic statistics from the the law enforcement memorial. In 2015, 39 officers were shot and killed, and this year there have been 12 already. There's a growing animosity towards law enforcement that we have to do. I put in this graph here to kind of show that I'm not getting on the bandwagon, or I'm not trying to just basically say that this is suddenly something that's been happening recently. Law enforcement violence is actually on a downward trend, but until recently, I didn't get to put it on here, but recently it is shooting back up. What I'm trying to say is, if you get pulled over, if you react towards law enforcement, first reaction should not be violence. The first reaction should not be trying to argue with the police officer. The first reaction should not be trying to avoid being arrested. If you get pulled over for it, whether it's going to be just for a ticket, if they knock on your door for whatever reason, just comply. Not because it's not showing timidity. It's just showing straight common sense. Be responsible for our own actions. Don't be violent towards law enforcement. And as a whole, if society, as each person in society, it's upon us to change us. It's upon us to change our culture. It's upon us to make it better for when our kids grow up.